Hello and welcome to this mini course on large language models. I'm so glad you're joining me because this topic is fascinating, interesting, fun, and it's applicable to a wide variety of creative and professional practices. In this course, we're going to be using GPT-3. It's the most popular large language model, and it's very convenient because it's available as a public web page, ChatGPT, and it's also available via API with GPT-3. So whether you're a complete layperson who just wants to do some experimenting and you don't have any experience in this field or with programming, you can get started. And conversely, if you're a data scientist or a programmer, you can extend it quite easily as well. And to that same point, it works really well getting some cool results with minimal prompting. And it can also be fine-tuned with large data sets to really be applicable to whatever domain you're working in. So why is this important? Well, large language models like GPT-3, I can't overstate this, but they really do have the potential to revolutionize how humans interact with computers. It's a breakthrough, and it's important to be on the cutting edge if you're interested in this sort of thing. As well, large language models aren't applicable to just text, but also for generating images, video, audio, and I'm sure people will discover more uses as we go on. And it is an AI tool right at the cutting edge, which is easy for non-professionals to pick up and get started with. So it's super democratized. As we'll see in this course, the field of prompt design, getting these large language models to do what we want and generate cool outputs. Scientists and professionals are currently figuring out the best way to do these things, and there's an enormous amount of amateurs currently experimenting with this, and the state of the art is really just being formed as we speak. Now, what are you going to walk away from this course being able to do or know? Well, in this course, we're going to start learning with no-code prompt design, showcasing what can be done just giving GPT-3 a little prompt and trying to coax it to give us some outputs. We'll cover some creative ideas as well as some ideas that might be applicable at your job or in the professional world. Next, we're going to learn how to fine-tune a custom GPT-3 model. This will be using Python, but if you are not a programmer or you don't have experience with Python, don't worry. We are going to be covering everything in depth. We're going to be providing the code and the data to you and hopefully giving you the tools to either do it yourself or at least understand how it works, whether it's to your grandma, your colleague, or to a data scientist or a computational linguist. You'll be able to understand what these large language models can do. And even if you're not implementing it yourself, you'll be able to speak intelligently about the possibilities. So I'm really excited to teach you everything I know about large language models, and stay with me. In the next lesson, we'll be jumping right into prompt design. I'll see you there. Hello and welcome back to our mini course on large language models. In this lesson, we're going to learn a bit about prompt design, and then quickly we're going to jump right into GPT-3 and start experimenting ourselves. So when you're using GPT-3, you're going to see the words prompt and completion a lot. These are its input and output. So you're going to give GPT-3 a prompt, and it's going to give you back a completion. Now, the completions can be really high quality even with short prompts, but an AI researcher named Gwern says that getting the right output can be like coaching a super intelligent cat into learning a new trick. And if you ever tried to teach a cat how to do a trick, it can sometimes be a little bit difficult. For example, if you give it a prompt like, give me a list of cat breeds, you'd think that it would return a list of cats, but it might actually continue that prompt with, and I'll tell you which ones I like. Basically, GPT-3's purpose in life is to continue on the text that you give it in a natural way that matches up with its data set, which is basically the entire internet almost. So with prompt design, you can really get a lot done that in the past we would have had to use code or some other tool to do. GPT-3 is extremely good at generating structured content like code or like Markdown. You can see in the example, if I want to generate some Python code to print Kale is really awesome, it's no problem to do that. And actually GPT-3 can generate much more complicated code that actually works, which is very impressive. On the right side of the screen here, you see a little diagram which kind of illustrates what I think of prompt design, which at the top there, you can see that in the early days of computing, you needed to build a special computer to do whatever task you wanted. You know, is it a calculator? You need to build a computer for that. And then we ended up making it a little bit easier to use by, okay, a computer can run many different programs. You just need to write the code. And then more recently, it's been a matter of, you know, with machine learning, getting a good data set. But with prompt design, you know, it's going toward a future where it might just be a matter of figuring out the best prompt, the best way to explain to the computer what you want, and it will just do the rest. So it's a extremely exciting field to get into. Stick with me. In the next lesson, we're going to jump right into GPT-3, and we'll learn the ins and outs of prompt design. I'll see you there. Hello there. In this lesson, we will be learning about prompt design, and we're going to start to get our hands dirty experimenting with ChatGPT. So here we are logged into OpenAI's ChatGPT, and we can see here a very friendly opening menu where we have some basic examples as well as a reminder of some of the various capabilities and limitations of the system. Important to highlight here is that it's a known limitation that ChatGPT will not always give correct information, and it may, people call this hallucinating. It may attempt to generate a reasonable completion that appears factual, but if you actually check the information, it might not be. They have done extensive training to stop it from producing harmful content, but it might slip through. It has been trained on a lot of data sources, such as Reddit, Wikipedia, other things on the internet, which might contain harmful content. And the model was basically trained at the end of 2021. And so if you ask it about a more recent event, it probably will not know about it. So let's take a gander. As I mentioned before, this tool is really easy to experiment with, and it's been designed to be as conversational as possible. So basically we can just chat to it, and that's the interface. It's a conversation between two agents, us as humans and ChatGPT as a AI agent. So how can I help you today? It asks. Well, let's keep chatting, and we'll try to demonstrate some of the power of this tool. We can say, I'm a little sad today. Do you think you could write me a limerick about a tasty breakfast sandwich? My breakfast today wasn't that exciting, so I'd like to read a fun limerick about a breakfast sandwich, because that's what I'm craving. Let's see what it can come up with. There once was a breakfast that packed a punch, a sandwich both tasty and crunch, with bacon and eggs, cheese and more. It hit all the right spots, that's for sure. So rise and shine, give it a munch. Honestly, not bad, but I don't think it really fit the limerick rhythm. You could ask it to generate it one more time, and let's see what it comes up with. There is an element of randomness or stochasticity to the system, so you can try to keep generating different options and see what it comes up with. There once was a sandwich so grand, with bacon, eggs, and cheese all at hand. It was served on a bun. Oh, what fun. This tasty breakfast left me so bland. Well, you know, it's trying. It's trying. Not a perfect limerick, but this is the kind of thing that it can do. How about a haiku? See how it does with other structured forms. Because ChatGPT has ingested so much information from the internet, it really has a good idea on how to do a variety of things. Sunrise on my plate. Okay. Egg and cheese on toasted bread. Breakfast finds its peace. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. Thanks for that. If a breakfast sandwich at my local shop costs $5 and there is a 7% sales tax, how much will I have to pay? See how it does with a little bit of math. It generally does okay. Let's see. Hey, that ain't too bad. That ain't too bad. So as we can see, this is quite a generalized tool which can be used on a variety of things. Now, it's responded pretty well in these two cases. Other common uses are, to generate things for, marketing use cases or creative use cases. So maybe we want to say, I want to write an article today on a controversial but important topic. Can you give me a few ideas for article topics and titles? Let's see what ChatGPT gives us. So helpful. Climate change, the urgency of climate action, a wake-up call for the world. Okay, wow. And you see it formats it pretty nicely with numbered bullets and then bullets. Climate change, racial injustice, income inequality. Interesting. So yeah, it really did exactly what we wanted it to do. And it's continuing to generate on gun control. And this is kind of a window into, how ChatGPT, it's not an unbiased AI tool, but it's a tool that was created basically revolving around American culture. So these are the topics that are really popular in American society, and ChatGPT kind of parrots this back to us. But again, it's super helpful. Now, there's a bit of a debate around what ChatGPT can do in terms of, is it intelligent? Is it conscious? Can it actually understand? Or is it just using its large data set to kind of parrot back in an unthinking manner what it's seen before? And we can test this out a little bit, testing if it actually understands. So this is an example I've used before, but let's see here. I work at a university and recently met a colleague named Amy. She recently completed her PhD and left her prior university to join us here. Is Amy closer to 25 or 8 years old? Now, basically any human being would know that if Amy has completed her PhD and she's, working at a university, she's going to be closer to 25 years old than 8 years old. But the AI doesn't really understand that. It looks at its data set and tries to complete the prompt as best as it can, but it really doesn't go any deeper than that. So it's important to be mindful of this as we start to use ChatGPT and GPT-3 as tools, that while it can accomplish really impressive things, it doesn't understand semantics. It just understands data aggregation and trying to complete the prompt. So this is a little example of its limitations. In the next video, we're actually going to move beyond ChatGPT and into GPT-3, where we can get a bit more control over the tool and explore the very limits of what it can do. So have a play around in ChatGPT, and I'll see you in the next video on GPT-3. Hello and welcome back to our section on prompt design. In the last video, we played around with ChatGPT, and in this video, we are inside the GPT-3 playground, where we're going to learn all about the different parameters that we can use to take control over how GPT-3 will generate a response for us. So let's take a look first at the anatomy of this page. All the parameters you have access to in the playground are available to you if you want to use this via API. You can see it'll actually just generate what you'll need if you want to actually use your prompt and your settings programmatically in an application or something like that. So here is where you'll actually write out your prompt, where GPT-3 will read it and give you a completion. And on the right side of the screen are all of your parameters. We're in completion mode right now. There are a couple other ones in beta, like insertion and editing, but we're going to focus on completion here. You can choose which model you're using. We're in DaVinci right now, which is, according to OpenAI, the most capable model. It's also the most expensive. And there are also Ada, Babbage Curry, which are maybe less expensive models, which might not be as powerful. Let's go into some of these settings. We're not going to cover them all, but temperature is quite an important one. Basically, you can control how creative versus how deterministic GPT-3 will be. If you crank this up closer to 1, it's going to be really creative and a little random. And if you crank it down to 0, it's going to basically say the same thing over and over again. So we'll leave that back at 0.7, but you can play around with this setting. Maximum length is the maximum amount of tokens that it will generate. So if you want the response result to be short or long, you can control the maximum length. Stop sequence is where you can control when you want it to actually stop. Maybe we'll make it a period for something like that if you only want it to generate one sentence. Let's see here. We won't cover all these in details, but you can incentivize the model to not say the same thing again. You can incentivize it to not repeat things that have been said already. And you can insert start text if you want to have a similar phrase at the beginning of every prompt. As well, you can turn on a debug mode by showing the probabilities, which can be interesting to learn, kind of a little bit of the thought process behind what OpenAI and GPT-3 were thinking when it generated a specific result. So that's the lay of the land, that's the anatomy, that's the parameters that you're going to be able to play around with as you're using GPT-3. In the next video, we're going to start generating some outputs and seeing how it compares with ChatGPT. So I'll see you in the next video on GPT-3. Hello and welcome back. We will be learning a little bit more about prompt design. We're back in the GPT-3 playground. We're fully aware of all of our parameters and everything that we can do here. Let's take a spin and see what we can do. So a really popular usage of GPT-3 is for creative tasks. Humans are awesomely creative, of course, but it's nice to have a little bit of help from the AI now and again. So maybe we're sitting at home and we're thinking of a way we could contribute to the community or use our time or make a little bit of money. So maybe we can ask GPT-3. So we can tell it to come up with ideas for a business that I can start pretty quickly and cheaply. And there it goes, is generating some reasonable ideas. And this is actually what we call zero-shot prompting. So we just told it what to do. We didn't give it a single example. We just said, hey, do this. And it came up with, I believe, 6 ideas. We could probably have gotten more if we had increased the maximum length. Pet sitting, social media, cleaning, tutoring. These are, decent ideas. It did a pretty good job. So yeah, tons of creative uses for GPT-3 that are already going on. Tons of writers and musicians and marketers are already using this technology to help them get started being creative. But we can also do something called few-shot prompting, where we tell GPT-3 what to do, and then we also give them a bit of an example. So something like, let's get rid of this. You are a baker's assistant. You know everything there is to know about baking, and you're happy to share your knowledge with folks in the kitchen. Example, user, so we'll call them a baker. Uh-oh, I burnt this brownie and it's now stuck to the bottom of the pan. What can I do? baker's assistant. You can try scraping with a butter knife and turning the pan upside down. In future, maybe try a lower temperature. Okay, so we've given it one example. We could give it another example, or we can just try to continue. So let's see if we can get GPT-3 to continue on. You'll notice that I'm using kind of a structured example header. GPT-3 responds really well to this type of structured formatting, which makes it really good for development, because if you want to, you can force GPT-3 to answer in JSON or as a CSV or in HTML. It's really receptive to that, as it's absorbed a lot of that kind of stuff into its data set. So let's try another example, see how well GPT-3 can do. Another question from a baker, maybe, what temperature should I set the oven on for a, let's call it a honey cake? Baker's assistant, and we'll leave it up to GPT-3 to answer, hopefully. For a honey cake, you should set the oven temperature at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure to preheat the oven before you start baking. Awesome. So you could imagine this might be useful as an app that you might find on your Alexa or your Google Home in the kitchen. And this is exactly how you would train a model to do that kind of thing for your app. You might set up your app where when the user says, hey Google, I need help with my baking, you'd collect what they say, feed it into the prompt, and then query GPT-3 with that. So you can actually view the code here. This is what you would send into GPT-3, and you'd spit back as part of your application. So that can be a really awesome use case. You can imagine so many different ways to use this. So this is a really good example of the kind of thing that you could use GPT-3 to do creatively, both either as a zero shot, like for the business ideas, or a few shot, like what we're doing now, providing an example. The last major use case I want to show in this video is summarization, which GPT-3 is also really, really good at. So I have some board meeting minutes here from the Vancouver Parks Board, and I don't have time to read all that stuff, but I do want to know what the Parks Board plans on doing. I like to use the parks. I want to be a good citizen and keep abreast of these local politics, so we can make GPT-3 help us. Something like, please summarize the following document. Highlight in particular the things that a normal citizen would find interesting. Please format the summary using bullet points to make it nice and easy to read. Okay, paste that in there, and let's see if GPT-3 can summarize it. Okay, this looks great. I am saving a lot of time. Recommendations for modifications to the park. So-and-so was granted leave. There's some updates on urban forestry projects. All right, seems like I would need to actually read the meetings to judge this. And actually what we would really want to do is to have some people read the minutes and do some examples, maybe some few shot prompting, or maybe even fine tune a model that would be really good at summarizing. But for a zero shot, I think this did quite well. Okay, thanks for watching. I think we've gone through several really good examples of how we can use GPT-3, both in the playground and what it will look like to use GPT-3 with an API call. In the next video, we're going to show an example of how we can actually plug GPT-3 into a voice application, and how that can be really powerful and fun to deploy in the real world. So I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, and welcome back. In the last video, we learned some tips and tricks and strategies around prompt design and GPT-3. In this video, we're going to take a look at an application of some of those strategies. I've built a little app here, kind of a chatbot type thing. We'll call it our hipster friend. Basically, it's an agent that you can talk to. In this case, we're going to chat with it, but you could imagine it being used in a voice situation as well to recommend you some cool new books or movies or pieces of music to kind of go a little bit beyond what you already know. So it'll greet us and say, hey, I can help you find some hidden gems. What topic do you want to explore? Let's say films. Any specific things that you really liked? So these two pieces of text from our hipster friend are actually hard-coded. What we're doing now is gathering two pieces of information, kind of a topic and a specific thing that you like, and we're going to add these to our prompt. So if we take a look here, there's a little piece of code that's helping this all run. Basically, we're making a base prompt. So we have a kind of setting the stage for our zero-shot prompt, letting GPT-3 know that this is a conversation with a cool intellectual hipster friend. And then we're going to start the conversation. We're going to collect that topic, add it to the prompt, and we're going to collect that specific kind of thing and add it to the prompt. And then we're going to package all this together along with the GPT-3 model, the max number of tokens, the temperature, all the same things that are existing in the playground. We're just going to use it programmatically in our app. So we'll say that the specific thing that we liked is I loved The Lion King. I did love The Lion King. So now what this is going to do is query GPT-3 and come back with some recommendations. So we see here that it took in the fact that we wanted to talk about films, that we love The Lion King, and it's going to recommend us some more off the beaten path type recommendations, which I think is really cool. Some Studio Ghibli, some French films. So this is kind of cool. And what's also cool here, we can see in our code and in our prompt design, is that with each conversational turn, we're actually going to update the prompt with what GPT-3 responded with, and then what the learner is asking as their follow-up. This is what ChatGPT-3 kind of does under the hood, and we've recreated it using the GPT-3 API. So we can continue the conversation. That's really cool. But do those films have lions? I really like lions and cats in particular. Let's see if it can recommend us anything to do with lions and cats. None of them have cats. Oh, it recommends Roar and The Cat Returns. So these are really cool recommendations, and for someone who's worked on chatbots like myself, I think it's really awesome that instead of writing all these answers or drawing these answers from some sort of knowledge base, you can query them so flexibly with GPT-3. So this app is working. It's using prompt design as well as the GPT-3 parameters. You can see that we've got our temperature set at 0.8 to make it be a little bit more creative. And it's an illustration of a little bit of the power and flexibility of the tool that we have on our hands. So thanks for watching. In the next video, we're going to start diving into fine-tuning, which is a whole other side of GPT-3, where you can basically build custom models using data sets to make your GPT-3 model super focused and just totally aligned to your use case. So I will see you in the next video. Hey there, and welcome back, and congratulations on completing the prompt design section of this course. By now, I think you'll have a great grasp of how you can speak to these large language models and guide them to produce outputs that can be valuable for you or your customers or your projects. In the next section of this course, we are going to be moving on to a whole other side of GPT-3 called fine-tuning, where instead of just giving GPT-3 or ChatGPT a prompt and it giving you a completion and leveraging all the massive amounts of data that it's been trained on, with fine-tuning, you can generate a custom model by providing GPT-3 with a data set of specific prompts and completions that are relevant to whatever project you're working on. And this is a bit more of a technical process. We're going to be using a bit of Python, and we're going to be in our code editor, and we're going to be working with the OpenAI APIs. So if this is beyond what you're looking for, you're welcome to watch along and just kind of understand what this process is. There's a lot that you can get done with just prompt design. But if you're ready to get your hands dirty and completely explore this whole other powerful side of GPT-3 and other large language models, then come along and join me in the next section of the course, which is on fine-tuning. I will see you there. Hello and welcome back to our mini course on large language models. In this lesson, we are going to be learning all about how you can fine-tune GPT-3 to create your own custom model. So fine-tuning is a different technique than prompt design, and it's also very valuable. So fine-tuning lets you make your own custom model, which can have some benefits, such as the ability to train on more examples than can fit into a prompt. A prompt has a maximum of 4,000 tokens. So, you can't fit so much in there. If a prompt is too long, you just can't use it. Fine-tuning, basically you feed a lot of prompt and completion pairs into GPT-3 at once. You train it up on all that data. And then with each subsequent time where you actually ask GPT to give you a completion, you only need to send a small prompt in there. You don't need to give it all the preamble that you might have when you're doing prompt design. And because this is a shorter prompt, it's going to come back faster as well. So if you're making a big application, you can get better performance, so lower latency if you use a fine-tuned model. So to illustrate the difference between fine-tuning and prompt design, let's look at this example. This is a GPT-3 function where you want to enable a user to enter in some English that might be not correct grammar. I guess, I should say incorrect grammar when I'm using this example. And then GPT-3 will return that same phrase, that same meaning, but with correct grammar. So in this example, we're using prompt design to tell GPT-3, give it some context that it's an English teacher. The learner is going to give you a phrase that might be incorrect, correct them by giving the correct phrase, and we're going to give an example or two to let it know how it should proceed. And now we can hit it with this prompt, which includes all the preamble as well as what the user says. And it should come back with something like, "Why wasn't I invited?" which is great. Now we can accomplish the same thing with fine-tuning if we have the data for it. So if you were going to do this same example with fine-tuning, you would need a large data set. GPT or OpenAI recommends, no fewer than 300, 400 examples to really get the benefits of fine-tuning, where you give it, hundreds or thousands of examples of prompt and completion for what you want. So these would be short pairs of what someone would be entering in as the input and what GPT-3 should give as the output, prompt completion pairs. So we would have a few here. You can see these examples, and there's an ellipsis. So this would go on, and you'd give it hundreds of pairs. You'd train it. GPT-3 would give you your own custom model. So instead of querying DaVinci or Ada or one of the pre-built models, you would query your custom fine-tuned model directly. And when you give it a prompt, all you would say is the phrase, which might have incorrect grammar, and GPT-3 would give you back the corrected phrase. So it does take a lot more data than just using prompt design. So prompt design is super great if you want to get started quickly and you just want to see what GPT-3 can do out of the box. But with fine tuning, you can be a lot more specific if you have a lot of data. For instance, you might have seen some examples of GPT-3 where they'll say, hey, I made a GPT-3 model, I made an AI that can speak just like former President Trump, or that can talk just like Yoda from Star Wars. And so what they did is they probably fine-tuned it by giving it a lot of examples from that person or that character so that GPT-3 can kind of internalize the specifics around that. So in the next video, we're actually going to jump in and fine-tune our own model. And we're going to make a little relationship advice tool. So I'm sure that if we use prompt design, we could create a tool where we tell GPT-3, our relationship story, and it would tell us what to do. You should break up with them. You need to go to counseling, or you need to, rub their feet once in a while and make them dinner. But we're actually going to be training our own custom model of GPT-3 based on the Reddit subreddit relationship_advice. This subreddit's a little bit famous for having some level of toxicity, and they're always telling people to break up with their significant others of years because they, raised their voice once when they were stressed. So it has its own tone of voice that I'm hoping we can capture by grabbing a bunch of data from the Reddit API and training it up. I'll be taking you through lightly the process of how I scraped this data, and I'll be providing it to you so you'll have the idea, and hopefully down the road you can have all the tools necessary to do your own fine-tuning. So stay with me and we'll see how to fine-tune our own custom GPT-3 model in the next video. See you there. Hey there, and welcome back to our section on fine-tuning in GPT-3. So as mentioned, I'm going to use the Reddit Relationship Advice subreddit to fine-tune a model which can offer their unique brand of advice for people with questions about their relationship. So to get an idea, we have someone here asking about their relationship. They're saying that their boyfriend didn't get them anything from Valentine's Day, asked about an open relationship. Uh-oh. And then they're kind of fleshing out their question. And then in the comments, people are going to answer them. We have the top comment right here. So what we're going to do to train our GPT-3 model is we're going to take this as the prompt, and then we are going to take the top comment as the completion. And we're going to do it for hundreds and hundreds of Reddit posts. So we have more down here. Fiance showing weird signs. Needs to get better with his girlfriend farting in front of it. All sorts of unique and absurd questions. So we are going to gather all these and plug them into that prompt completion format that OpenAI requires. We could do all of this manually by just copying this, putting it into a text file alongside of the completion. However, that would take a lot of time. So we're actually going to use the Reddit API as well as Python to scrape some of the data and add it to a JSON-L file, which OpenAI requires. I'm going to spare you going down the rabbit hole there, but I will definitely include the GitHub repo, so the code and the instructions that you can take to leverage the same tool yourself if you want to scrape Reddit, or you can get the idea if you wanted to scrape a different website, or you can really use your imagination in terms of thinking what kind of data set might be useful to you, as long as it can be organized in the form of prompt and then completion, where all the prompts are similar and all the completions are similar, so that you can give the model an idea of what you want it to do. Then you'll be all set. So stay tuned and join me in the next video as we go through actually taking this data, which I'll have scraped from relationship advice, and plugging that into the OpenAI APIs to fine-tune a custom model, which we can then query with our own relationship advice questions. So I will see you in the next video. Hey there, and welcome back to our section on fine-tuning. In the last video, we decided on what kind of data set we were going to use to fine-tune our model. We're going to take some relationship advice posts from Reddit, as well as the top comments, and collect that data to fine-tune our model. I've attached the full code in the previous video, so you'll be able to grab that and play with it if you like. But basically, it takes all the top posts from relationship advice and writes them to a JSON-L file, which is what we need. And that file is going to look something like this. We have prompts, and we have, a lot of them are long, but we have completions. And if you look at a single one of them, we'll see it is something like this with a prompt. Last night I had a really bad migraine, and and then the completion, which is the top comment, offering some relationship advice. So how are we actually going to get this in to start training? So if we go ahead and refer to the documentation for OpenAI, I've already installed their command line tool and given them my API key. And now I'm going to actually use their CLI data preparation tool. So they validate that the data is good. They take out things that are too long and good stuff like that. Okay, let's give this a shot. OpenAI tools, fine-tune, prepare. And then our file is called Reddit data JSON. So we're going to run that. Let's make that a bit bigger. Okay, so our file contains 318 prompt completion pairs. There are 3 examples that are very long. Okay, it doesn't contain a common ending. So basically they can handle everything, so the fine-tuned model is good. They're going to offer us some advice, like a separator string. Okay, perfect. So we can just say yes. Yes, we're going to add a suffix separator to all prompts. Yes, we're going to add the suffix ending end to all completions. And yes, we're going to add a white space character to the beginning of the completions. We'll proceed. This just makes it easier to work with this model. Okay, so now it's prepared us kind of a better version of that file. And we can go ahead and train up our fine-tune model. So it's uploading it to OpenAI. It's going to train it up. And then once it's trained, we'll be able to actually go into the playground in the GPT-3 playground and start experimenting with our fine-tuned model. So that's all there is to it. As mentioned, all of the code that I've used to scrape this data and train it is in the GitHub, which is available to you. And if you need any further help, everyone is available to help you on the Discord. So I won't make you wait for this to train. It'll probably take half an hour or so. But I'll see you in the next video as we can start to play around with our fine-tuned model and see how it compares to the kind of results that we could get from a prompt design model. And I will see you in that next video. Hello and welcome back to our section on fine-tuning with GPT-3. Our fine-tune has completed for our model on Reddit's relationship advice. So we should be able to now play with our custom fine-tune model, which is awesome. So if we bounce over into the OpenAI playground, I've written a short question in the style of a relationship advice post. My partner and I wanted to adopt a puppy, but she went ahead and adopted a disgusting octopus. She didn't even ask if it was okay. Hey, the octopus seems nice, but I feel bad. What should I do now? And I want to see what Reddit would answer. So let's submit. Whoa. So it generated something that was a bit crazy. It has an update. It does seem like a post, but it's not really exactly what we wanted. We wanted this. It seems like it's continued on the prompt. Honestly, like this seems like it would be part of the post, and we didn't really get the answer. So let's roll this back and take a look at what happened. Fine-tuning is a bit more particular than a zero-shot, few-shot type prompt design. So we need to actually be a bit diligent in what we're doing. So we see here that they recommend that we add a suffix separator to all of the prompts just to make things uniform. And then it recommends that, hey, remember that your prompt has to end with that indicator string for the model to start generating completions rather than continuing with the prompt. So let's do that. We can add that in there. As well, it says make sure to include that stop equals space and then end, so that the generated text ends at the expected place. So let's add that stop sequence. That looks good. Okay, let's see if we can get a better answer here. I'm not sure I like that. A little play around. Let's try again. It looks like maybe a lot of the posts had edits in them, but so let's see. Maybe I should put the stop sequence down below just to let it know. Let's try again. A lot of people, I guess, in the data are talking about all the rewards they got. Because these were the top posts from relationship advice. Replace the octopus with a cute puppy, then tell her that. There's no reason to feel guilty. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Decent advice, I suppose. Baloney. they doubted that we were actually telling the truth. This is a gross octopus, filing an excuse to not be around her. Okay, interesting. Would you like to tell her that the octopus is actually a bit smelly and that you wish you had asked you before she went ahead and adopted it? Okay, well, there's a bit of bugs to be ironed out, but I do think that we have successfully trained our custom model. It really seems to be behaving in the same tone as Reddit. So yeah, we have all sorts of data that we didn't clean up. Bait an octopus and see how it goes. Okay, I'm really not sure about this, but as a test, let's see what the standard GPT-3 non-fine-tuned, how that would answer. See, this is much more generic, and it doesn't have some of the toxicity and the Reddit isms that we had in the pre-trained version. So we can definitely see that we're getting a different answer. Give it one more shot of the fine-tuned model. I think this octopus is best friends with your partner now. Uh-oh. As mentioned, there are strengths and weaknesses associated with fine-tuning a model versus using prompt design. Fine-tuned models, they don't take as much strength from the mass amounts of data from the internet that GPT-3's models can have access to automatically. And you need to be a bit more precise with your actual prompts, adding in that end indicator as well as the stop sequence. But you can capture some of the details from your specific training set and create a more personalized model. Take her to a shrink. Yeah, this is very Reddit style and different from the generic GPT-3 models. So I think you now understand the differences between fine-tuning and prompt design and how you can utilize both. Try to experiment, find your own interesting data sets, train your own custom models, and have fun with it. See what's possible. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome to the final video in our course. In this video, I wanted to discuss a little bit on the very cutting edge of LLMs and what's next both for the industry and for you as someone who wants to work with large language models. So GPT-4 was released. Obviously, our course is using GPT-3. You won't have to throw out any of the things we've learned. They're all going to be very relevant for GPT-4. The big differences between GPT-4 and GPT-3 are that GPT-4 can actually understand images. You can feed in an image as a prompt and it will understand that image, which is very cool. You can use 10 times as many tokens in its prompts compared to GPT-3, so you can give your bot a whole lot more context, and if you're having a conversation, the bot can remember a lot more of that conversation. It's also a lot stronger in non-English languages. On the live stream that announced GPT-4, they did a really cool example where they used GPT-4 to translate a sketch of a website on a piece of paper into HTML that actually rendered that website. So, I mean, just that tiny snippet of functionality could be amazingly disruptive. So it's clear that OpenAI are the industry leaders right now, and it's exciting to see what GPT-4 will be able to do. Now, we've been focusing on GPT-3 and OpenAI's tools in this course, but I wanted to point out that there are some other interesting options. One is Cohere.ai. It's founded by one of the people who wrote a famous academic paper called Attention is All You Need, which is really kind of the basis for all of these large language models, big transformer models in AI. This was created actually out of the Google Brain team, and Google has also released their own LLM now called Palm. Facebook has done the same, open sourcing their large language model, Llama. So feel free to experiment with these other LLMs as they're all racing now to see who can produce the most useful tools. Now, what's going to change as this LLM technology really takes hold? I'll give you some of my ideas. I really think it's going to change the way we're going to work with software. In the olden days, the software was produced with features. That's all you could do. In the 2010s, people started producing APIs that allowed developers, people who are handy with tech, to extend those programs and connect them with other programs, and that was a big leap forward. And now I feel that you're going to have software that's going to be forced to open itself up to being used via a large language model conversationally. One example that's going to happen pretty soon is in the Microsoft suite of products. Microsoft bought a large stake in OpenAI, and they're going to be plugging this into all their business tools, such as Excel. So you can imagine last year or right now, if you wanted to do interesting data analysis on an Excel spreadsheet and make some fancy graphs, you need to know a lot about how to use Excel, and you need to know how to do a pivot table and a VLOOKUP and make a graph and all that stuff. I think really soon you're going to just be able to say, hey, Excel, for the data in this sheet, can you do some graphs showing some interesting insights about the relationship between the seasons and our revenue for our business? And it'll do that analysis, it'll create those graphs and just make it a lot easier for everyone. But of course, it's going to change how we're using software, and certain skills like knowing all the Excel formulas might not be as valuable, and other skills like prompt engineering might be more valuable. Another thing that I think will change now that LLMs are taking the world by storm is social media. It used to be really obvious when a bot was talking to you on Reddit or Twitter. Maybe they could only trick the most gullible among us who weren't aware that there are some malicious actors that can use bots. But we've seen that GPT-3 and now GPT-4 and these models can speak so fluently and so realistically, and you can trigger this all programmatically. So it's hard to stop this wave of bots. And I do think that social media will get even more fraught with not knowing if all of those Reddit comments that are recommending a certain product are real people who like the product, or maybe they're bots that are just created very easily by the corporation or their marketing team. So there might be some change in social media behavior. Maybe we'll need to prove, more rigorously that you are a human being and not a bot before using these tools. And in the short term, we're all going to have to be a lot more careful to trust the things you read online that apparently come from a human, because you're going to be a lot less certain of that. So how can you start to leverage some of these LLM tools in your career to make a difference in your career progression? I would encourage you to think about a few things. One is getting creative. You can use these LLMs in a very specific way if you're working on chatbots or you want to generate some marketing copy, but the limits to what you can do with these tools are absolutely unknown right now. So definitely think outside the box and forge new areas where you might be able to use these tools, and I think you'll have success there. I would encourage you to share your work. I've noticed that a lot of people are building in public and being really generous with sharing their prompts and what they're working on and how they're thinking of through these problems. And I would encourage you to do the same because it helps the entire community. And of course, you'll get some more visibility on yourself as you're starting to play with these tools and generate cool outputs. It can be a win-win. You can help others as well as attract some attention for all the cool stuff you're doing. And finally, if you have skills in other areas, whether it's programming or writing or teaching, combining LLMs with the skills that you already have is going to be a good tool. I know that a lot of people have started getting really good results, starting to use LLMs in like a chatbot context, speaking to their customers by combining web scraping and conventional search to figure out the knowledge domain that the LLM should be searching, and then feeding that into GPT to put the answer into really natural language and have a great conversation. So LLMs can really extend a lot of other different technologies that people are already using that you might already be proficient in. So using them in collaboration can be a great idea. Well, congratulations. It has been a pleasure teaching you in this course, and I can't wait to see what together we can build and achieve with large language models.
Hey there. I wanted to take a second at the end of it all, at the end of your learning journey, to just say this one thing, and that is thank you. I know your time is valuable. We have limited time on this earth, and you decided to spend your time and your money, frankly, with us, doing something that takes a long time to learn. So truly, from the bottom of our hearts, I know it sounds cheesy, but thank you for dedicating your time and effort to this course. I hope you got what you wanted out of it, and congratulate yourself for getting this far, because a lot of people have hopes of learning, but they give up along the way. But you didn't do that. You worked through the challenges, the problems, and you got here. Now, your learning journey doesn't end here. It keeps going. But I hope this created a foundation for you to go off and learn things on your own, get a promotion, get hired, start a new business. Whatever it may be, again, thank you and best of luck with your learning journey. This is just the beginning of whatever you decide to do in the future. So thank you and good luck.